What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for hitting up my Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. That continues to be super helpful to me. Thank you for checking me out on Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, where you can find the music. Can't help myself. There's going to be some next music soon, I hope. It's been 1,001 roadblocks, but we're on the way. Thank you so much for checking out the Patreon and checking out the electional report where you can get timing guides, and there's an Astro Basics course, and the podcast comes out early there, etc., etc. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this community. I am continually grateful to be a part of this with you all. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week we are looking at, to my mind, this is Saturn's last good week, or this is Saturn's last real strong Saturn ruling everything kind of week. So even just tonight, we've got Venus closely conjunct Saturn right now. That is beautiful. It is gorgeous. As the moon is currently in Aquarius. We had the new moon in Aquarius last night. The moon moves forward a little bit, then it's going to move in and conjoin Venus and Saturn. That looks like big Saturn energy, but doing it Venusly. So Saturn wants to do the heaviness, the burden, the challenge and difficulty, like teaching endurance and longevity and stuff like that, right? While Venus wants to speak to sweetness or joy or pleasure or harmony, togetherness, cooperation, these kinds of things, right? So this, to my mind, looks like something that can work really well in an innovative way. So there's a really nice election tonight around midnight with Libra Rising, if you want to check that out. And if you want more lead time on that, then I do an election report on my Patreon. And that comes out at the beginning of the month and whatever. But so this week, after Venus moves past, because that's tonight, right? It's Sunday. And then after Venus moves past that, then a little bit later in the week on Friday, Venus is going to move into Pisces. Now this is fun because Venus rules Fridays, as well as being super exalted and very comfortable in Pisces. Venus knows what to do in Pisces. And so on Friday, Venus is going to leave that Saturn behind. Now, so I was talking about Saturn as being super strong this week. So we'll come back to Venus and Pisces because that's really important. But Saturn, we've got the sun in Aquarius right now as well, right? So as the sun gets closer and closer to Saturn, so Saturn, with the sun in Aquarius, then Saturn's just ruling that sun and ruling Mercury and Capricorn still. And there's still this whole, like, everybody is ruled by Saturn situation, right? But as the sun gets closer and closer, then we're going to see Saturn starting to disappear. Oh, that's the other thing that I wanted to mention, that Saturn and Venus are going to be super visible in the sky tonight. So even if you don't do you don't do an election of some sort or anything like that, then immediately after the sunset, then there's going to be a really nice Saturn-Venus situation right on the horizon. Real nice to see. There'll be a little crescent moon there with it also. Check that out for sure. So, but as the sun gets closer and closer, then we're going to see Saturn disappearing under the beams of the sun already. So if the sun, it's like immediately after sunset when we're going to be able to see this Saturn-Venus thing. And so they're very close. And so that gap is going to get shorter and shorter until eventually the sun is just going to kind of overtake that Saturn. And whenever that happens, then Saturn's just going to kind of like run out of having all of this extra juice. And then by the time Saturn comes out from under the beams, then it'll be Saturn in Pisces. So this is the last good week of like really strong, organization, habits and routines. I've been talking about habits and routines nonstop for the whole beginning of the year and all this, right? That's a real big deal. This is a good time to lean into that. Try to do the stuff. Try to do the hard thing this week whenever possible, because Saturn always appreciates that. And if you're looking for some back pay later, that's the way to do it. Credit where credit is due, right? The other thing that's going on this week is that Venus is moving into Pisces, right? So Venus is moving into Pisces. This is very interesting because, Saturn is going to move into Pisces next, right? And so this is sort of like getting us ready. But more than that, Mars retrograde has been getting us ready for big things to be going on this mutable axis, right? So if you have Pisces placements, for example, maybe you have Saturn in Pisces, maybe you're headed into your Saturn return. That's very exciting. You're getting there. You're getting grown here pretty soon, right? But it's like, like your Saturn in Pisces or your sun in Pisces or whatever your planet you have in Pisces has been getting this square from Mars and Gemini for mad long now. It's been like 6 months or not quite 5, but it'll be 8 by the time we're done. And so we've seen this kind of opening square, this opening situation that's been uncomfortable, that's been like there's been irritation and anxiety and all that sort of stuff, especially with Mars retrograde. It's been stuff going off the rails or not going according to plan and this kind of thing, right? Getting slowed down, having to really review and take another look at that. Now with Mars moving forward again, then we're going to start to see an effort to try to do something about it, to try to change something, to try to, usually Mars wants to invest personal effort into something in order to make it work. This is like the idea of pushing on something. You can push a car to get it to the service station or something like that, right? That's like kind of the vibe that we got going on here. Now, so Venus is going to move into Pisces this week, and that's going to put Venus into a square dynamic with Mars. So even though Venus loves being in Pisces and is super good at doing pleasure and just like all the sensory dynamic, oh, it's beautiful. It feels so good. It tastes so good. It's lavish and wonderful. And isn't it so splendid and all of these things, right? That's how Venus likes to be in Pisces. And we're still going to get that, but we've also got this square to Mars in Gemini, right? To my mind, that's a little bit like making Mars and Gemini into a game, like finding the fun way to exist in that. Like there's this review and there's shit's not been working, and so you got to try it another time, and maybe the shit's not going to work that time either, but like you try it. And maybe you can score a little higher this time, or maybe you can make it into a competition with your friends and see who is right. Like maybe if you are trying to do the hard thing with Saturn, then maybe you're like doing exercise or something like that. And you're trying to exercise with your friends, and you're trying to like prove that you're as bad as they are and that kind of thing, right? And that can be fun. And there's a social dynamic there that Venus, I think, can really enjoy. So I wouldn't probably want to use this Venus for, like, I wouldn't do a talisman or something like this, because you're going to have that square to Mars that's just going to like be all up in your business. Maybe you want to use that for like passion or lust or something like that. But like by and large, making a stone, like you're probably going to generate more problems than anything else. But as a transit, it looks like it can be fun, and it looks like it can sort of like be a nice, fun, joyous start to big Pisces things, because soon after Venus is in Pisces, Saturn's going to move into Pisces, and not that long, in about a month and a half, Saturn's going to move into Pisces, and then it's just going to be there for 2.5 years. So this is an opening transit here in some way. This is opening the door to that Saturn to come through. So especially if we're thinking about Saturn in Aquarius as like really wanting to double down on the Saturn things, on the organization, on the routine, on the like getting into the groove and handling business. Once Saturn moves into Pisces, then those Saturn things get a little weird, right? It's like the beach, and how like where does the land stop and the water start? Like, well, it's kind of moving around and this kind of thing, and the sand will move and the sand will move under your feet and stuff like that. That becomes the like Saturn in Pisces. We're moving into that space, right? But there's fun to be had there, and we can, the stuff on this mutable axis is in for such a major turning point in the coming years. And that can, you say that and it's like, oh no, but like really it can be fun, and there can be a feeling of like, we're gonna go through this together, or we're gonna do something beautiful, we're gonna make good art about it, right? Venus and Pisces would love to see some beautiful art coming out of these kinds of things. Thank you so much for being here. I super appreciate y'all. I'm out of time again, but if you want to find the things, you can find them on zambonifunk.com. I appreciate y'all. See you next time.